Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NBA Trade Zone podcast, where we talk all things NBA trades, past, present, and future. Hi, guys. My name is Daniel.
And I am Sebastian, and today we are going to discuss the 5 teams who we believe have shaped their current roster the best by the way of trades, and the 5 teams who we believe have done a terrible job of shaping their current roster also by way of trades. We will start out by talking about one team from the best, and we'll switch off by going best to worst each time.
Yes, indeed. So, we could hop right into it, essentially. At number 5 for the best teams to shape their roster through trades, I have a tie here between the Houston Rockets and the Toronto Raptors, simply due to the fact that both teams have acquired both their superstars through trades over the past 6-7 years. Essentially, I know the Rockets traded for Chris Paul in 2017 for a slew of players. And then in 2012, they traded for James Harden again for about 3 to 4 players. A draft pick that ended up being Steven Adams, who was obviously a good player. Kevin Martin, who was a solid scorer at the time, but I don't think any of that really makes a difference when you're acquiring James Harden. And the Toronto Raptors, they acquired Kawhi Leonard, obviously, this past summer for DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and a first-round pick. They acquired Serge Ibaka through a trade with the Raptors for Terrence Ross, who's playing really well for them.
With the Magic.
I'm sorry, with the Magic. Terrence Ross is playing well for them this year. He might even net them a first-round pick. But at the end of the day, I think Serge Ibaka, especially this year, is really playing some good basketball for the Toronto Raptors. They acquired OG Anunoby as a future first-round pick back in 2015, alongside Norman Powell. And both of those players are solid rotation players there in Toronto. And obviously Kyle Lowry back in 2012 as well was acquired from the Houston Rockets for Gary Forbes. And that same pick, which was he was obviously acquired from the Houston Rockets, like I mentioned, for that same first-round pick that Steven Adams was later selected as. But again, Kyle Lowry, since coming to Toronto, has played some real good basketball. So both teams...
Wait, Steven Adams came from Toronto?
No, it was a future first-round pick. So essentially, this was in 2012. This was a 2013 first-round pick.
Trade with James Harden.
Both.
What, that was a 3-way trade?
No. It was traded as a future first-round pick to Houston, and then Houston traded it to Oklahoma City.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so essentially, both Houston and Toronto acquired both their superstars from other teams through trades, and both teams, obviously Houston's struggling right now, but just counting last year and the success they had, and success is measured by championships, but at the same time, going to a Western Conference Finals, making it to a Game 7, and basically pulling a tank, not a tank. They blew the game away. They blew the game away at the Golden State. So they were very successful last year. So I have both of these teams ranked at number 5 on this list.
Yeah, again, the Kawhi trade, obviously Toronto Raptors made a lot of good deals. If we were just to, judge this based on solely this year, I think you can argue that Toronto can be in the top 1 or 2 with what the moves they have made, because they are really playing like a real good team this year. I think some of the moves that they made, like even by losing Jakob Poeltl in that deal, kind of frees up the space where you could start Serge at the 5, which leads to a more modern NBA lineup. The fact that the DeMar DeRozan isn't there anymore, and his style of play cannot hinder the Raptors anymore from being able to run the floor in its space, which is something that the Raptors, I think, are even benefiting from, even when Kawhi is not in the court. As we saw the past 2 games, they just beat the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors in back-to-back nights without Kawhi Leonard, and these are 2 of the better Western Conference teams so far, and this was a healthy Golden State Warriors too. So, I think if we were judging this based on, without take a look at any future, I think the Raptors would be the win. Now, obviously, this Kawhi trade only really works out if Kawhi ends up staying.
Well, unless they win a championship. I mean,
But
the
if
two
you,
will
I mean,
more likely come hand
you
in
would
hand.
think
But
that if they win a championship, Kawhi would stay, right? I mean, that's
of
gotta
course,
be.
yeah, you would think. I mean, I would think that if they make the Eastern Conference Finals and give whoever, I mean, more likely the Celtics or Sixers are out for the money, he'll stay. I think he's going to stay regardless of what happens. But I mean,
But you're almost assured. I mean, I would hope at least Kawhi would not leave after winning a championship. And like, I'm one of those people who argue, like, I mean, Golden State Warriors are really good, but I really like this Toronto team, and I hate watching them because don't like cheering for Kawhi anymore. But they are a really
yeah,
good
you do.
team.
You like cheering for Kawhi.
I do not like cheering for Kawhi.
You like him more on the Lakers too.
I would hate him on the Lakers. I would let him go to the Clippers and let his career die there.
I think. Well, I mean, I don't think his career would die there. I think he'd be a perfect fit actually for the Clippers. But I mean, that'll definitely be something we touch on at some point.
And I'll just quickly make a remark on the Houston. Obviously, they won definitely James Harden deal. They didn't give up too much besides what ended up being Steven Adams. But you know, the Chris Paul trade for last year was really good. We obviously are seeing the limitations of trading for an older guy right now. And, you know, giving Chris Paul that contract is really going to kind of put the Rockets in a place where they're going to struggle in the future, in my opinion. So even though it was really good for last year, and they were up for 15. They were up 15 in the Western Conference Final, and it was pretty much assured that they were going to win the championship if they win Game 7. But that was 1 year, and you know, the trade can work out for 1 year. But we're again seeing the limitations now. Chris Paul, maybe he's just off to a bad start, and maybe he'll be a better player. But you know, as of right now, it doesn't look like the Rockets are going to be as good of a team and be able to put up as much of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean they have absolutely no depth. The guys, the people they're playing are I have no clue some of those names that the people of they're playing on their depth chart. They tried. It's like Michael Carter Williams and Carmelo Anthony. Anyone with a brain could have predicted that wasn't going to work. Apparently, except the Houston Rockets. They traded away Anderson,
GM, who always gets all the
well,
credit.
I mean, he deserves a lot of credit, but I mean,
I don't know.
for someone who
I'm not convinced they haven't won anything.
they haven't, but how many teams have? I mean, it's hard to judge just off. It's hard to judge success based solely off championship for the simple fact that I mean, what the last 4 years
they had one round. One time they made the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, of course. But, I mean, it's something they traded for Harden, then they finally were able to get another superstar in Chris Paul. They were trying, and they finally got it.
Don't you think the trade for that superstar is kind of what's hindering them from filling out that depth?
I mean, yes and no. I think where would they be last year and this year without Chris Paul? Probably not any better than they are. Maybe not worse, but probably not any better. Definitely last year they wouldn't be as good as they were. And it was just, their simple problem was not retaining the players that they should have retained. It was their fault this year for not doing that, for being a little cheap.
No, I mean, I agree with that. All right, let's move on to the worst.
The fifth worst team, yeah. So our number 5 on the list of the 5 worst teams who have shaped themselves worst through trades is the Phoenix Suns. So going back essentially to 2015, that's when really a lot of the worst transactions started. I mean, some of the smaller trades, they've traded away PJ Tucker, both Marcus and Markieff Morris, who are all playing very solid basketball right now. For along actually Reggie Bullock's another one who could hit some 3-pointers in Detroit. They traded him away really for nothing. I mean, for a bunch of second-round picks for some other players who haven't panned out, haven't done much for them or anyone else since then. But I'll go back to one specific day, and that's February 19th, 2015, a trade deadline back in 2015, when they made a slew of moves, essentially. They traded away Goran Dragic and received 2 first-round picks in return. There's a lot going on in these trades, by the way. I will say that before. Then they also traded away Isaiah Thomas to the Boston Celtics for a 2016 first-round pick. A lot more names were involved. We're not going to do that. And then they traded away a 2018 first-round pick, essentially, to the Philadelphia 76ers for Brandon Knight. Now, this is the same pick that the Sixers later used to grab Mikal Bridges. And then they traded that pick away, essentially Mikal Bridges, obviously this past draft, for Zaire Smith and the same 2021 first round pick that Phoenix acquired for Goran Dragic. So that's where those two picks have gone. Now, another thing that they did here, another trade that was really bad, was that they traded away two more of the same picks that they acquired in these deals, 2 more first-round picks, along with Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's playing some real good basketball in Sacramento. They traded those 3 players away, well, the 2 picks and 1 player, for Marquise Chris. And that's obviously really hindered their team since, because Marquise Chris hasn't done much.
Did they
at
trade
all.
him for the pick, or did they trade him for Marquise Chris?
I mean, Marquise Chris was selected and traded.
Okay.
So, essentially, for Marquise Chris, they traded away 2 first-round picks. It was Skal Labissiere, Georgios Papagiannis, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's really playing good basketball at Sacramento, for Marquise Chris, and a 2020 second-round pick, which obviously hasn't converted yet. And, of course, they've traded away Eric Bledsoe, who's playing real good basketball in Milwaukee, but they did receive a first-round pick. Probably won't get conveyed this year. Might be next year. We'll see how that first-round pick turns out, but that's not looking like a good deal for them either. But that was a move they had to do, so we really won't fault them for it that much. But yeah, I mean, essentially in 2015 trade deadline, they acquired Brandon Knight, and they traded away Isaiah Thomas and Goran Dragic for a bunch of first-round picks, none that have panned out well at all. And they traded away a solid first-round pick for Brandon Knight, who obviously did not pan out for them at all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the trades you mentioned are pretty bad. You're giving out the better players, and you're not receiving much in return. And the biggest problem when it comes to the Phoenix Suns, unfortunately, even though as bad as their trades are, their biggest problem have been their draft picks. They just don't know how to scout. They don't know how to pick the best players. And it really seems like that has been a problem for the Phoenix Suns. And one can even make the argument that they made the mistake of not taking Doncic this year over Ayton, who at least for now, and I actually believe Doncic has a better future, but for now, Doncic is showing to be the better player.
Yeah, I mean, so is Ayton, but you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Doncic, Ayton is showing he's a good player, but Doncic is showing that he's probably a better player. Probably will have a better future, and it would be fun to watch Booker and Doncic together, so I don't disagree with you there.
I do think that would be a good combination, and then that would actually give Doncic more room to be the playmaker that he is, because Booker wants to play off ball.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention there'll probably be a few more bigs available this offseason when the draft rolls around as compared to backcourt players, but that's still, I mean, if Doncic was on Phoenix, they'd probably be a little better than they are. Who knows how high they'd pick would be. I mean, a lot of what ifs there, but yeah, I don't disagree with you there. Moving on to the number 4 team on the teams that have shaped themselves best through trades, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, yes, obviously they made that trade last year's draft in 2017, where they traded away, the pick that turned out to be Jason Tatum and Sacramento's future first-round pick for Markelle Fultz, who looks like a bust. However, I think, going back essentially to 2013, when they traded away Drew Holiday for a bunch of two first-round picks, and that where they really started their rebuild. I think they've just made they've included themselves in a buttload of trades. Doing research on this, I found out just how many second-round picks they have acquired, everything, how many players they have traded for other players, second-round picks. Younger players included themselves in deals where they took on cash for picks. I just think that, I'm a fan of rebuilds in general, just because I think if you're swallowed somewhere in mediocrity, I think you're better off going through a full rebuild. And I just think the slew of trades that they have made since 2013 has really set them up to where they are now in terms of having Joel Embiid, having Ben Simmons. The trade they made in 2014 where they traded for Dario Saric, and I believe it was the pick that netted them Alfred Payton or for another first-round pick. But essentially they were able to get Dario Saric and some other draft picks, and that really set them up to make the Jimmy Butler trade that they made this year, obviously alongside with signing Robert Covington for pennies to the dollar compared to what he became. But that's all what a rebuild is about. And I have them at number 4 for that reason. The fact that they were able to make so many